Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Othello. Well, hear all those pieces rattling around there? Othello, classic. This was sent to me by Spin Master, and I know what you're thinking. Gosh, someone, you're reviewing Othello. What's next? Chess? Checkers? Well, how about you shut up? I had not actually played Othello before, and so I was like, yeah, I'll review it. Why not? It's an old game. It's a classic game. It's like backgammon. I don't know how to play backgammon. I never had played Othello before. So it's a fair game for a review. So let me show you how to play.
So in Othello, each of you has 32 discs in one color, black or white. You set it up like this in the beginning, and you try to outflank each other. To outflank someone means to place a disc on the board so that your opponent's row or rows of discs is bordered at each end by a disc of your color. A row may be made up of one or more discs. For example, if I put one here, black outflanks this white, so this would be flipped to black. Black always moves first. If a player cannot outflank and flip at least one opposing disc, they forfeit their turn, and their opponent moves again. However, if a move is available, a player may not forfeit their turn, they have to take the move. A disc may outflank any number of discs in one or more rows in any number of directions at the same time, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. A row is defined as one or more discs in a continuous straight line. So if I put a white disc here, this would get outflanked, and you have to flip all these over. This would get outflanked, so you'd flip that over, and this diagonal row gets outflanked. So all of them would become white. Players may not skip over their own color discs to outflank an opposing disc. So if I put this here, this would only outflank this disc. These discs would be untouched. Also, discs may only be outflanked as a direct result of a move and must fall in the direct line of the disc placed down. So if I put a black disc here, these would get outflanked, but this row, even though it's outflanked, it doesn't get flipped because that was not a direct line of the disc that was placed. If a player runs out of discs but still has the opportunity to outflank an opposing disc on their turn, the opponent must give them a disc to use. When it is no longer possible for either player to move, the game is over. Discs are counted, and the player with the majority of their color showing is the winner.
Like the tagline on the box says, a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. So to Othello's credit, it is incredibly easy to learn. You just flank discs and flip them over. The game is deceptive in that when you start out, you think that trying to flip over as many as you can of your color right away is good, but actually it's about giving yourself more moves than your opponent. That's kind of the whole game. So if you can get a corner, you get a huge advantage because you can outflank more discs. So what seems like a kind of capture them quick, like, aha, I'm gonna capture all the rows really quickly, actually turns out to be more of a spacing game. Like trying to make sure, because even if you outflank a row of discs, your opponent can just outflank that and get all those discs back. So it's really more about spacing. It's alright. Unfortunately, Othello has the disadvantage of being an old-ass game. But since then, in 100 years, games like Yinch have come out, which I reviewed in a previous episode, episode 6, and they are similar to Othello, but frankly, more fun and have more depth. That, and honestly, having to flip over the discs manually over and over again gets pretty old because you're just fumbling with trying to do 6 discs and just it's kind of a pain. In terms of the components of this specific box, the discs are made of plastic, so they're alright. They're just kind of like a plastic, and then the board is made of this kind of green felt, which is fine, but my issue with it is the bottom has these kind of little rubber bumps that you're supposed to put on the plastic rods so that the board doesn't slip, but they fall off all the time. It kind of feels a little cheap. Is it a good game? It's fine, but unless you're just an Othello nut, I feel like the game has been successfully replaced by newer, better games that give you the feel of Othello, the feel of capturing pieces and flipping them, but better. Again, Yinch is one I would recommend over this. Sorry, Othello. You're old.